Hi everyone, so you might have already seen this 1kmh inner Tempest rush setup that I have cleared the GR130 with. So a lot of people have been asking me about how would this work in speeds, can this also perform better than the other setups, and I have tried it out myself after I've done that solo push and been experimenting a bit with different variations of the setup, and I think I found what works the best. So the answer is yes, it does work and there is a use for such a 1kmh setup, but it does have a little bit of a different purpose and pace. So typically inner fire speeds want to go extremely fast and clear GRs in roughly 2 minutes plus minus a little bit. So this is usually what you're aiming for. I already made another video about this GR120 plus speedruns explaining the setup, how you go really fast with Ingeum and Messerschmitt, and you just dash around, explode everything around you, cycle strike, repeat. So that works really well when you go fast and you keep your squirts. And this 1kmh setup has a bit of a different working mechanism. So instead of this Ingeum, you have a Zodiac ring, but you also have more damage. So this is basically the trade that you make, and without Ingeum means you can't do perma dashing, because when you have Ingeum up you can just dash every half second, so twice a second for free without any other Zodiac or Messerschmitt procs, and that is really valuable to go really fast. Also it makes it so that you can spam your Serenity a lot more, which you also can't do because every single Zodiac proc here is valuable. But all in all, the setup works great. You can Tempest rush around, blast down the bosses, you can blast down the trash, and you are extremely mobile and have high damage. But the setup is overall a bit slower, so that you go for roughly 3-minute runs instead of 2-minute runs instead, but on a higher tier, roughly 6 to 7 tiers higher. So I'll show you the two setups that I mentioned here. This is the one from the typical speedruns that I have been using so far, that I've also shown in the other video. So we have Orgels, we have Ingeum, Messerschmitt, here's an Echoing Fury, and you just run, blast, repeat, and basically nothing really special. Just try to make sure you use the Ingeum well, make sure you don't run out of Ingeum, you can dash around, use cycle strike stuff, and you go boom with your Mystic allies. That's how it works. Now with this 1kmh setup, you swap your weapon, you also swap your bracer and your shoulder, so you can't include as Orgels anymore because you need the Ring of the Zodiac that you proc with your Tempest Rush, the same as the 1kmh that applies the cycle strikes for you to everything around you. So this has a few advantages because you can just dash into a pack and keep channeling, and whenever you hit something, it will immediately cast cycle strike. So sometimes you have some Mystic allies leftovers from your previous explosion, and they will still be transformed and ready to pop, but when you go to the next target, they will run in and explode without the bindings of the Lesser Gods buff, so that you don't deal any damage. So this is essentially completely averted here, and you always deal full damage to everything as long as you keep channeling. Now this would sound like you actually go faster with the setup, but you don't, because you just have not enough dashes, and I tried various ways to include more, but it all doesn't really make much sense. So you have to sometimes just walk a bit more, or just try to Tempest rush a bit more, and then you dash around whenever you can. It's not really like you have downtime, but there are some maps here and there, like an Arid Crater, a Spider Cave, or something like this, where you have long stretches of nothing, and you just have to walk for a few seconds, and this overall slows down the runs. But you have the higher damage and you can go higher tiers. Another advantage is you can get the Taeguk in here. So Taeguk is a very strong gem, and we usually have the Bane of the Powerful. So Taeguk easily beats that one, and you have it up pretty much all the time as long as you channel regularly. And we have the Mantle of Channeling here that makes up for most of the loss from Orgels. Now for the Ethereal, since these runs are a bit slower and go around 3 minutes, I figured that Bartox is actually better. Sometimes I had the issue that I was going through the run super smooth with a J-Talon, was super fast, but then at the boss I needed like 25 or 30 seconds to blast it down, because sometimes I might lose my Squirts necklace, but even if I didn't, I have to reset a couple times and do like 5, 6, 7 rotations to actually finish the boss. And with Bartok, you straight up cut that in half, and you do like 3-4 rotations in like 10 seconds or something, and the boss is down. Since it also has this additional crit chance compared to the J-Talon's attack speed bonus, you actually deal more overall damage, but you have a little bit of attack speed scaling, so it almost evens out. And J-Talon also has extra cooldown, but if you have full cooldown rolls on every single slot, you will not notice this very much. So Bartok is definitely the way to go for these runs that last around 3 minutes, simply because you can blast down elites consistently when you lose your squirts, and also the boss will die really fast even if you lose your squirts, because you have this double damage effect. Aside from this, nothing really changes on the setup, just the playstyle is a bit different with the Tempest Rush, and also you need to apply your focus buff with the Wave the Hunter's Fist sometimes. So essentially, whenever you go to a new pull, you can maybe dash around and punch, and then you just keep channeling until 5 seconds later you punch again and you keep channeling. So it's pretty straightforward. For your mantra, I have also tried a few different setups. So I like the Mantra of Conviction and Annihilation the most. This is also what I have been running already on the other setup. I know a lot of people like Epiphany, which you can use for extra toughness, but if you do that, you will definitely lose some time, because you have Zodiac and Messerschmitt and every single proc is valuable, and some of those will go to Epiphany and will not be available for your Mystic allies, which also gives you a lot of resources. Every time you press this button, you get 200 of your resources, and you're gonna be channeling a lot, you're gonna be losing your spirit quite fast. So keeping up Mystic allies as much as possible is really important. So instead of going for Epiphany, I would recommend Mantra of Salvation with Agility for extra toughness. So you don't want to press this actively, you just want to have this on your bar for the extra all risk and also for this dodge chance. And this is actually a quite good way to also keep your squirts up. With Epiphany, you just get damage reduction, which does help you when you take a lot of damage, when there's ground effects and stuff you can't dodge. But for the most part, you shouldn't really be any squishy anyway. I tried this at 0 paragon, I just removed my paragon points here, and with this mantra I was totally fine. In the end, it comes down to good Serenity timing, so when you go into an elite pack, make sure you press the Serenity, try to blast it down before it can remove your squirts buff or before it can do any damage to you. And also sometimes on certain trash monsters you can run in there, press Serenity and keep it. And for the most part you can just like blast through the run, because as you cyclone strike enemies with your automatic 1 Kimlau procs from Tempest Rush, usually most things will not attack you immediately, so you can time it so that you actually almost never lose your squirts when you go at a good pace and you have a decent run. With my character with full paragons, I was able to run 130 GRs in 3 minutes consistently with this, as opposed to the 123s that I was getting with the other setup. And that will actually even out to roughly the same XP per hour, as you can see here. So I made some example calculation. Here is just 123s, 1 player, 2 minutes, 45 seconds downtime. Keep in mind this is quite fast, so if you have longer downtime with gem ups, gambling, sorting out loot, etc., which is most likely the case, the slower runs actually pull ahead even more, because you overall spend more time in the rift compared to the town. But let's say you have a fast town rotation of 45 seconds, you get roughly 4.3 trillion XP an hour doing those runs with my character. So obviously when you have lower paragon, that might be a bit less. So for example, I removed all my paragon and I was going exactly 6 tiers lower with around 12k dex. So this is something for you to maybe keep as a bit of a benchmark, and something like 6 tiers lower would lead to roughly 1 trillion less XP per hour, but still a sizable 3.21. So that is really good. Now if you compare this value here to those 130 speeds, essentially I just changed the Greater Rift level 7 tiers higher, and I changed this to 3 minutes, and we get roughly the same XP per hour. And that's also all I have to share with this. So really fun playstyle. I like the pushing with this, I like the speed farming as well. I'm probably not gonna play the monk too much anymore because I'm focusing on the wizard, but it was definitely quite fun trying this out. So hope you enjoyed this video, hope that it helps you, and I'll see you guys next time.